What is up, my dear friends, and welcome back to the Happy Heart Academy podcast. I am your host and relationship coach, Tyler Joe Stratton, and today we are talking about the 4 big ideas on how you can begin to avoid being overwhelmed in your life so that you can finally gain a sense of control and peace moving forward. But before we dive into that, once again, welcome to the Happy Heart Academy podcast. If you've been here for a while, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to leave a review in the Apple, iTunes podcast app, Spotify, wherever you're currently listening to it. It greatly helps out this community. It helps out this podcast to reach more lives and change more hearts. So if you want to be a part of the healed people cycle, because this podcast has been helping you, I would love to read your review on this podcast, just so that we can continue to grow, develop, and educate others on how to move through difficult times and find happiness, create happiness, earn your happiness through the long term. And so I appreciate you being here. And also, listen, if you've been a long-term listener, or perhaps this is your first episode you're ever tuning into, thank you for being here. I have a free training that you can go ahead and currently watch. It's a training on how to move on. It's a training that's designed to help you within 30 minutes gain a grip on your life after heartbreak. The training is designed to help you to understand the 3 steps that I would recommend you take and to focus in on as you work through a heartbreak. Like, how do you move through a breakup? How do you deal with the emotional overwhelm? What am I supposed to actually be doing? What should I not be doing? This training will teach you the 3 steps that I would take you through if I was your coach guiding you through this time, as well as the 3 things that oftentimes keep us the most stuck. And you'll be surprised to find out what they are and how many of you are currently doing these things, which are crippling you from being able to move on. Once again, that training is in the show notes below. Check it out. It's just a free training on how to move on if you are interested into that. But once again, thank you for being here. If you've been a long-term listener, wonderful. I appreciate you being here. Definitely leave a review on wherever you listen to the podcast at. Now on to today's episode. My dear friends, today we are going to discuss a topic that has been very active in my life lately. I've been, just to be real with you, I've been under a lot of stress and overwhelm lately, to the point where it put me in the emergency room just last Friday. I've been dealing with intense stress and intense overwhelm in my life, and I've never been good with dealing with stress or overwhelm. And I'm trying to honestly learn different tactics and techniques and ways in which I can handle my overwhelm, handle my stress, so that it doesn't cripple me and put me back into the emergency room. To give you a little bit of backstory, I woke up last Monday, or 2 Mondays ago. Actually, it's been 2 weeks now, I think. And I woke up with excruciating neck pain. I couldn't turn my head. I thought I just slept on the wrong side of the bed. And it turned out like it was my muscles were locked. And no one understood why. I didn't understand why really either. And what I ended up realizing was, I believe it had to do with the amount of stress I've been holding on in my body that I haven't been allowing myself to release actively and daily. Stress has been crippling my life, and it crippled me for a week. I could not move my neck. I went to the chiropractor. I got x-rays. I went to my family doctor to see if she could get me on anything to kind of help with the pain. And I was in severe pain. And this pain was like ruining my quality of life. And for anybody that's dealt with physical pain, it's crippling. And I wouldn't wish this pain on my worst enemy. It had me bedridden. I couldn't pick up my head. I literally had to physically lift my neck up in order to pick up my head when I was laying down. I couldn't find relief for 5 days straight. It was just excruciating. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably like a 8.5, 9 out of 10 on the pain scale. And so it wasn't until I went to the ER on Friday where I was like, listen, I've been dealing with some severe neck pain. I just can't move my neck. There's nothing I can do here, and I just need some relief. And so they put me on, obviously, some medication to kind of help release the pain. And I realized that a lot of this pain came from the overwhelm and the stress that I've been experiencing for a long period of time in my life. And running a business, working a lot, many hours, taking care of a family, being a good friend, being a good husband, a brother, creating courses, coaching individuals, you name it. My life is busy. I'm trying to take care of my health. And one of the things that I sometimes forget in the pursuit of my own dreams, goals, desires, and fulfillment is I've got to take time to rest and relax. And that's what I wasn't doing. I wasn't resting. I wasn't relaxing. I'd wake up and I would step right back into it. The amount of, I would just just put down tons of caffeine. I would be taking supplements to help me focus. And I just hit a point where my body tapped out, and I hold a lot of stress and tension in my shoulders and in my neck. So today I want to talk about my experience, and then ultimately the 4 big ideas that can help you to work through stress and overwhelm in your life, because these are the things that I've implemented in my life. And I just want to be honest with you, I'm not an expert in this area whatsoever, but I know when we go through difficult times in our lives, when we find ourselves struggling with a breakup, a heartbreak, a separation, divorce, maybe a job, finances, whatever it may be, like life can feel overwhelming at times. And it's how we respond to those moments that can dictate the quality of life we live. If we respond in a negative manner, or we just suppress it and we keep pushing forward like I did, our bodies will hold this energy and oftentimes cause our bodies to have issues, pain, stress, your body breaks down due to the amount of stress that you're putting under it. So, if you take anything away from today, if you're going through a difficult time, emotionally, physically, financially, relationally, understand this. You've got to do, I'm literally giving myself this advice. This today is about me talking to you and me working through my own issues. And I'm hoping that me working through my own issues can help you work through yours if you're dealing with it. Okay. So it's a little bit of a different podcast episode, but ultimately stress is just a part of life, or is it? This pain has made me question, what purpose does stress serve me in my life? Like, why do I allow myself to get so stressed out? Why do I allow myself to get so overwhelmed? What good comes from it? And I couldn't really give a good reason on why I allowed myself to get to this point. But if there's one thing that you take away from today's podcast, is make sure that when you're going through those difficult times in your life, aka Tyler, be sure to make time for you even more so. When life gets so busy, make sure you're making time for you. Like, this is where I forgot to take care of me. I realized in the busyness in the chaos of my own personal life and in my own business and in my own relationships, like when going gets tough, this is the time to bunker down and make sure we're taking care of ourselves, meaning we're taking breaks, we are meditating, we are going on walks, we are hydrating, not with caffeine but with water and electrolytes and salt, and making sure that we are making ourselves a priority. When we hold ourselves to a high standard, like we have to perform for our families, we have to show up for our bosses, we have to show up for others, we care about what other people think, we care about what we are doing with our lives. When we show up and we have to give a ton of effort during this time, like if you feel like you are overwhelmed by the emotional stress that you're going through, if you feel like you're overwhelmed in the financial stress, if you feel overwhelmed in the relational stress, if you're feeling overwhelmed in life, this is a moment in time that God is asking you to take care of you. Listen, this is a time for you to just, while you're going through the mess and the chaos, to don't forget about you. That's the purpose of today's message. Don't forget about yourself. Now, if I didn't forget about myself, I don't think I would have found myself in the emergency room. I would have probably have done things a little bit differently. And these are going to kind of be the different things. I mean, I'm going to give you some practical things today. I'm going to give you some educational ideas and perspectives. And I'm going to give you 4 big ideas on how to avoid this overwhelm in life and what I've decided to do differently this week that just passed, on how I started to handle my overwhelm. And first thing first was, I had to, anytime I go through a challenging part in my life, I have to identify the problem. And the problem was me feeling overwhelmed, and this overwhelm led to stress. So anytime I deal with any type of issue, I call out the issue, because when we deal with issues or a problem, we oftentimes cluster all of our problems and we feel like we have 101 problems. But what I asked myself, I'm like, what is the main problem here? If we have one problem, we can handle that one problem. You're already halfway through that problem because you've identified the problem. So the first big idea here, is what you really want to think about before stepping into it is like, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm feeling stressed. So my problem that I identified is overwhelm and stress. So the first thing I did was I ran to the dictionary and I started to understand what makes someone overwhelmed and what is overwhelm. Well, I need you to understand what it means to be overwhelmed. We know the emotional experience, right? We know that it just feels like high intensity, uncontrollable amounts of stress and tension within our bodies and minds, where we can't stop worrying, where we can't stop thinking, where we can't stop processing, and it lowers the quality of our emotional state that we experience, right? But understanding the definition can help us to gain more power over it, because I believe once we understand the definition, it will bring more clarity, and that clarity brings peace. So overwhelm refers to the feelings that basically burden us, or we feel this excessive amount of burden or stress due to an overload of responsibilities or emotions. So it's just an overwhelm. It just refers to feeling excessively burdened or stressed due to an overload of responsibilities or of emotions. Chronic overwhelm can negatively impact our mental, emotional, and in my case, my physical well-being. It literally put me, it costed technically thousands of dollars to get me into the emergency room to basically figure out the problem and then to help release the problem, right? So, I mean, it plays a terrible role in our lives, and it costed me my health, my physical health, and it hindered my productivity and my overall happiness. And that's when things start messing with my happiness, that's when I start to take things a little bit more serious in my life, because I just want to make sure if today was my last day that I lived a happy life today. Like I felt fulfilled. Like I left all the cards on the table. I put it out all on the field, and I started to move through this. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just understand that overwhelm just refers to feeling excessively, burden or stress due to an overload of responsibility or emotions. And that's pretty typical, especially when we go through a heartbreak, or financial stress, or a breakup, or a divorce. We can experience that overwhelm. And chronic overwhelm, basically meaning it lasts over 6 days or more, can hinder our productivity and our happiness. And so in this episode, we're going to explore some practical strategies to be proactive rather than reactive. We're going to explore some proactive ideas to address overwhelm and find some balance and peace in our lives. And I just want to express how important this is. And I'm really talking to you today because I'm talking to myself. I'm really preaching to myself today, and you're just a part of the conversation. And like I said, I'm grateful that you're here, and I appreciate it. And I just need to help you understand, like, this is what I did when I hit my lowest of low, when I found myself in the emergency room and I said, I'm not going to allow myself to get this way again. I need to be proactive. So the first big idea here is when I'm dealing with the responsibility of being a good husband, when I'm being a responsibility of being a good, church leader, when I'm being responsible for the lives of those whom I coach, and I'm trying to help other people work through heartbreak, divorce, separation, getting a more control in their own lives and in their own relationships. I feel like I have a lot of responsibility. I feel overwhelmed at times. I feel stressed at times. It's not that I don't love what I do. I love what I do. So I do it, but I push myself. And I realized, like, why do I feel so overwhelmed? And it's oftentimes because I haven't did big idea number one. If we're dealing with overwhelm and stress, we must learn how to prioritize and simplify our lives. I forgot to do this. And you see, moving forward, I'm going to start to prioritize my tasks and commitments. I believe that this is going to be essential to managing my overwhelm effectively and my stress effectively, meaning, I'm just going to sit back and prioritize my to-do list. I'm going to simplify my life. I'm not going to try to overdo it, but I'm going to start to simplify my life in a way where I start to identify what truly matters to me. When we identify what truly matters to us, it can help us to alleviate some stress and create a sense of focus. So when we think about prioritizing, what we really need to think about is just creating some to-do lists and using time management techniques to evaluate our life. We need to focus in on what's really meaningful to us, not try to do it all, but just do the thing that's most meaningful and most impactful in our lives. You can start by creating a to-do list. You can use time management techniques and evaluating which activities align with your true values and your true goals. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm sitting down in my journal. If you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this at, I have my journal in front of me, and I'm writing down what's most important to me in my life. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm taking care of the most important thing rather than all the 100 million small things, so that I don't feel so overwhelmed. I'm like, if I just do this one thing, meaning if I just show up for my kids, or if I just show up for my family, or if I just show up at the workplace, or if I just take care of my finances, if I just, this one main thing, if I can just take care of that, everything else will just kind of wash away. Now, I've been playing around with this, but just sitting down in the mornings and literally journaling out my day, writing out my game plan. Like, we all in sports, every day I went to practice, our coaches always had a game plan for us. This was our schedule. This is what we're going to do with this time. We're going to stick with it. And that's how we became successful. And I just had to do it in my own life as well. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is start to get a game plan for your day. You know, a sense of overwhelm oftentimes comes from the act of randomness. We leave our life to randomness. We leave our day to randomness. We just allow life to happen to us rather than for us. And how you make that switch, if you feel like life has been happening to you and it's working against you, what you can do is you can ultimately begin to show up for yourself and create the life you want to live, create the day you want to live. And I talk about that in my course program. If you're interested in my course program, Happiness After Heartbreak, I talk extensively, so much into how to begin to create and plan out your day. And once again, that is in the show notes as well. But ultimately, to get back on track here, is we really have to begin to be proactive and create a day and then live in alignment with that day. So just start to prioritize, some tasks that you want to get done, some things that you want to get done. Don't leave it up to randomness, and start to slowly focus on those couple of things. Like today, I wanted to record this podcast for the Happy Heart Academy community, so that you guys could get some more inspiration, more perspective, and more help in regards to just living a better quality of life, a happier life, a more peaceful life, maybe even a balanced life, a life where you get what you want, live the way that you deserve to live, and create a really good legacy. So the big idea here is just I've been trying to prioritize and simplify my life. And when I say simplify my life, I'm just trying to identify what truly matters. I'm asking myself before I do something, like, is this podcast important to me? Is this really what matters to me at this point in my life today? Absolutely 100% it is. And I have the reasons why. Once, I want to take care of you. I want to offer you free education, free personal development, free self-help, so that you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars trying to find a mentor, a coach, or a guide to basically help you through this. So if you're dealing with overwhelm, just step one, prioritize and simplify. Step two is establish some boundaries in your life. I think I forgot to set some boundaries. Setting boundaries in my life, in our lives and relationships, is crucial to protect our time, energy, and well-being. Boundaries, my friends, can be established in personal, professional, relational, and digital contexts to create healthy limits. And it's about communicating those boundaries, not only to other people, but to ourselves effectively and assertively, is just the basic to building some healthy boundaries in our lives. You see, the key to maintaining boundaries is by communicating them and actively pursuing them. So I just started to think about, what are some of my boundaries? Like, one of my biggest boundaries in my life that I have to continue to protect and to communicate effectively, not only to my family, but to those whom I coach, is the time that I have to myself in the first hour of my day. So when I wake up an hour before my wife, or before my household, like, I've got to make sure that is a boundary that I protect. Like, nobody can interrupt me. Like, I've got to make sure I set myself up so that I'm not being interrupted, so that I have 1 hour to take care of myself. And I have a system that I have designed to take care of myself. But in the busyness of life, we oftentimes forget ourselves. And that's what I talked about. And that's what happened to me. So what I did was, I would be so exhausted, I would stop wasting, I would stop utilizing my victory hour of the morning, focusing on myself, and I would use that extra hour to sleep. thinking that that would help, but actually in reverse, it didn't help me because I wasn't taking care of me. Although I was sleeping, and that is a form of practice of self-care, that's not really what I needed. I needed to get in alignment. I needed to figure out, once again, journal about my priorities, of what my to-do list was, how to simplify my life, what is most important to me that day, and to focus in on that. And then once again, to establish some boundaries. Protecting my boundaries is going to help me maintain stress. So once again, when I feel overwhelmed, oftentimes it's because we are letting go of our boundaries. We don't know what our boundaries are. We don't even think about boundaries. We don't even think about ourselves, let alone our boundaries. And therefore we continue the chaos. We continue the overwhelm. We continue feeling crushed and rushed by life and all the problems. And life is happening to us rather than for us. And so think about boundaries. Think about how you can start to establish some boundaries to protect your mindset, your heart set, your health set, and your soul set. Start to think about the boundaries you need to be like, listen, you must understand that this first hour of my day is for me. That means nobody else. That means that's me time. Or my boundary is to prioritize my meditation practice, or it's to prioritize my going out and walking with God for 10 to 15 minutes, or it's putting a boundary on the amount of times that I will allow my clients to take away from me. How much time are they allowed to have? So I usually give my clients about 4 hours throughout my day to basically work with me, and so try to meet with like 4 clients a day if that's ideal. And if I don't protect that boundary, then I'm going to continue to be drained by other people's needs, wants, desires of me. So I need to make sure that I'm protecting my boundaries and communicating them. Nothing against you, but I can't serve you to my greatest ability if I don't have the energy to do so, because I'm so pulled in every direction. And as a mother, as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a mother, or whatever it might be, whomever you are, whomever you identify as, people need you. And if people need you to show up, then you need to make sure that you're showing up for you. And that's a reminder to myself. And I know people rely on me and count on me to help work through their life's difficulties, their relational difficulties, their family difficulties. Working through divorces are challenging, emotional. I mean, it plays just as much of effect on you as it does me. And like as me as it does you. Like it's challenging sometimes to help individuals. But ultimately, in that, we have to make sure we're voicing our boundaries and identifying them. And maybe we can have another conversation and really talk about how to establish boundaries. What are boundaries? What are some clear boundaries we can set for ourselves so that we don't feel so emotionally or physically or even spiritually overwhelmed by each and every single day. So establishing some boundaries. And the biggest boundary that I'm asking myself to set up is the protection of my power hour, my victory hour, the hour that I wake up before my household so that I can take care of my mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. And if you're not familiar with those words, they're the internal empires that I talk about in my course. Ultimately, it's just basically, how do you take care of your mind? How do you take care of your emotions? How do you take care of your spirit? And how do you take care of your health in the first hour of your day? If you can spend an hour taking care of you every single morning, you're going to fill your cup up so that you don't feel depleted by midday or even by the morning. And the big idea number 3, the first idea here was prioritize and simplify your life. Prioritize what's most important and simplify your life by understanding what is most important. Number 2 is to establish some boundaries. Understanding what are some of the boundaries you need to protect in order to, maybe it's you need to protect your meditation practice. Maybe you need to protect your fitness routine. Maybe it's you need to protect some your reading time, maybe praying time, journaling time, building your business time, protecting your time in a way that you can reinvest it back into you so that you can go into idea number 3, which is practicing some self-care. This is what I forgot. This is the big point here. The big point here is that I forgot to take care of me during the height of my overwhelm. And that's what I'm trying to basically help you to understand not to do. If I could go back in time, I would say, Tyler, pause, take care of yourself because you need you. Everything else can wait. Without you taking care of you, you have nothing to give. So if you can't pour from an empty cup, quit pouring. And I was pouring from an empty cup. I was burning what my parents always say, you're always burning the candle at both ends, right? Like, yeah, the candle's lit at both ends and I'm constantly burning it. And it ended up putting me in the emergency room of it because of it. And I'm just saying, like, self-care can play a vital role in preventing an overwhelm and maintaining some peace in your life. So I needed to start to develop some more self-care practices into my life, some self-care habits. And what are those to me? Well, engaging in the physical, emotional, and mental self-care activities can help us to recharge and manage our stress. We can incorporate self-care practices like some of the few that I'm currently incorporating into my life from last week is more exercise on the Peloton that's behind me. More meditation with the Muse headband, which is right here. Let me grab it real quick. The Muse headband, if you guys are not familiar with this, it's an amazing headband that basically regulates your mind and I think it's called ECG or whatever, but basically it's the brain waves, and it tells you if you're in a peaceful state or in a stressful state. And it just is a powerful band to help you to meditate. So once again, it's a matter of really helping yourself set up some self-care practices and principles. And the ones that I feel like that can help me manage my stress and overwhelm is journaling out my day, getting a game plan on what I'm going to do and what time I'm going to do it, and then to protect that thing that I'm going to do, and then to practice some self-care practices, such as some exercise, some meditation, some journaling, and pursuing of some hobbies. All of these are going to help you to be able to manage your stress. It's going to help you to be able to move through it, handle it, evaluate it, and to really just feel better about it. So once again, like, you've got to just establish some self-care practices. And what I've been doing, once again, is I've been meditating longer. I've been exercising in a more healthy manner. Rather than just hitting the weights, I'm trying to do yoga, I'm trying to cycle, I'm trying to walk, things that just help me to feel more relaxed in my own skin and in my own body. And the last big idea here that I have really for you is you got to seek support and delegate your life if you can. You might feel overwhelmed at work. You might feel overwhelmed in your family. You might need to ask your kids for some help. You might need to ask, your family for some help, but ultimately understanding it's okay to find support. If you're feeling emotionally withdrawn and just discouraged and broken, finding someone to talk to, whether it's a therapist. One thing that I found out this week is that my health insurance company provides free health coaches, basically to help you with manage stress and to basically delegate my health to them. And what I mean by that is they can set up a plan for you to get more healthy emotionally, mentally, physically. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's free. If you can check with your health insurance provider to see if they have anything like that for you as well. But ultimately, just seeking support from others and delegating some tasks can significantly lighten our load and reduce overwhelm. It's essential for me and for you to reach out to our loved ones, to our friends, to our professionals, for our assistants when needed, and just ultimately embracing some collaboration in our lives. If we feel like we can't continue to work through this and to move through this time by ourselves, then don't do it by yourself. Ask for some help. Ask for some assistance. Ask for some, freedom to be able to take some weight off of your shoulders, because I get it. Life can feel overwhelming. It can feel difficult. It can feel hard. It can feel super stressful to the point where your body begins to break. You get more sick. You get more tight. You get more tense. You get more unhappy. And when we hit that place, it's ultimately because we're not doing this one thing. We're not taking care of ourselves. We're not prioritizing our health. We're not prioritizing our mindset. We are not prioritizing our health set. We're not prioritizing our soul set. We're not prioritizing our heart set. We need to prioritize taking care of ourselves. And dang it, Tyler, that's what I'm telling you today. You've got to continue to prioritize taking care of you. When you feel overwhelmed, the next time you feel overwhelmed, the next time you feel stressed, the next time you feel like life is too much, then once again, you've got to learn how to handle it by doing these 4 things. Number 1, it's just prioritize and simplify your life. Prioritize by writing out a to-do list, and then to simplify what is the most important thing that I need to take care of that can actually move the needle. Number 2 is establish boundaries. Is then once I've identified what I need to do and who I need to show up as, protecting that time to do it rather than allowing others to interfere with that time and being in everyone's beck and call. Because I understand, as a person that's been heartbroken throughout his life, I oftentimes put other people before I put, before I take care of myself. I put people before me. I'm a people pleaser. I would rather take care of you than take care of myself. I find it easier to take care of others than I find it to take care of myself. I'm there with you. And I'm just reminding myself, reminding you today to make sure that we're establishing some boundaries and protecting our time and protecting our energy and protecting our emotions so that we don't get so completely drained from the overall asking of what people feel like they need from us. And then once we establish some boundaries in protecting time, we can practice some self-care. I can start to meditate a little bit more. I can start to relax my body a little bit more. I can start to journal a little bit more. I can start to talk to people a little bit more. And then finally, I can seek support. I can ask my wife. I can ask my parents. I can ask, my relatives. I can ask my brother. I can ask my neighbors. I can ask a lot of different people. I have a lot of people in my inner circle. I can ask my Bible study group. I can ask my close friends, whomever I need to ask just for some help. Don't forget that humans thrive on community. Humans thrive on getting support from other people. You're not meant to do this alone. And to feel like you are alone can be a part of the overwhelm, be a part of the stress, be a part of what you're currently carrying. So, remember, just to continuously work through this difficult time, the last big idea that I really want to give you outside of the 4 is like supplementation. I have some recommendations on some supplements. I've talked to my brother. He loves just the supplement health world. And him and his girlfriend have been taking a lot of supplements to help manage their stress and their overwhelm. And some of the ones that they were recommended to me to take that I'm buying today, there's a product called Lemon Balm. That's Lemon Balm, BALM. There's a product called Ashwagandha that you can check out. There's a product called, I think it's like a B complex. You can learn about vitamin B complexes and how they can help to basically regulate the calm state within the nervous system. Skull cap, and I think it's like Egyptian lotus, which is like a tea can help you with managing your stress. So definitely check out supplements. Supplements can help lower your cortisol levels, lower your sense of overwhelm, which is exactly what I'm trying to do. So check out some supplements, work through Amazon, look at those, check out like different articles on supplements. But those are the 4 that I'm going to be buying. I'm going to be buying ashwagandha, lemon balm. I'm going to be buying this vitamin B complex, and I'm also going to be buying, it's called Skull Cap, and it's like an organic herb that I think you can drink or smoke, either or, but it's supposed to help to make the body's parasympathetic nervous system be more active than your overall. I think there's another, outside of the parasympathetic, there is another nervous system that basically is constantly triggered, the fight or flight mode. So listen, I know this was a little bit different today. I understand that, but I hope it served you. I hope it helped you to understand that I too am human. I've experienced stress. I experience overwhelm. Actually, I'm not very good with dealing with it, but the ways that I'm going to deal with it, like I said, is number 1, I'm going to start to basically slow down. I'm going to prioritize and simplify my life a little bit more. And I'm going to do that by spending time in the journal. Number 2, I'm going to establish boundaries, protecting my time that I do have to make sure that I'm taking care of me by practicing the big idea. Number 3, some self-care practices of meditation, of journaling, of walking, of exercise. And number 4, I'm going to seek more support from those whom I believe that can help me through this time of my life. And I hope that you can implement some of these ideas. You can think about some of these ideas. And I challenge you not to just listen to this episode, but then write it down in your own journal and think about it, ponder it, spend some time. How can you begin to prioritize and simplify your life? How can I begin to establish more boundaries? In what areas of my life should I spend more time establishing some boundaries? Number 3 is to practice more self-care. What have I not been doing that I know that makes me feel more peaceful in my life? And number 4, who can I ask for help? Who can guide me? Is it Tyler? Is it, the Happy Heart Academy community? Is it my friends, family? If you feel like you have no one, is it a church group? Is it whatever? Think about these questions, ponder them, and spend some time journaling about them, because the answers you will find will help to basically set you free, find peace, and to find happiness. So in Godspeed, my friend, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a review and share it out with 1, 2, 3 of your friends, just to get that message out there, because I know we're all feeling overwhelmed. I know that the world, life, relationships, finances is a lot to handle, and I just don't want you to feel alone. That's why I'm sharing this episode with you today, is because I want you to know that I'm going through it too. And I'm going to get through it like I've always got through it, and I'm going to learn how to manage it better. And these were the 4 big ideas on what I've been doing in the past weeks since I've experienced this terrible neck pain from my stress that has been helping me to feel like I have more control over my life.